How can we keep on when so many bad things happen to us? Hi everyone, I'm Thomas, and hello and welcome to my channel. I do mostly educational videos on important subjects that you may know the subject, but you don't know the angle that I'm approaching it from. So I do a lot of research on math and sacred geometry, especially meditation and nutrition and some physics and chemistry and astronomy and a little bit of economics and a lot of history, crypto history, and probably some other topics that I'm forgetting. But for now, I've been focusing my channel on the Tree of Life. And I do this because I think the Tree of Life is kind of like the common denominator. It's something it's a tool that you use so that when I eventually get around to teaching all these other subjects to you, you have a great template to insert all the new teachings. The Tree of Life is really like a filing cabinet. That was how one of the adherents of the Tree of Life referred to it as a mystical filing cabinet. And that's pretty much what it is. You are able to categorize and therefore be able to remember and retrieve all the information, all the mystical information that you have accrued over the years. And so that's why I think the Tree of Life is important, is because it's non-dogmatic. You can apply it yourself to your own life and your own experiences and your own situation, and you can use it to as a structure for you to incorporate all the other things that you've learned. So once we get the Tree of Life, then all the other subjects become a lot easier, because they become a lot easier to remember and a lot easier to recall, a lot easier to retrieve, and thereby to utilize. Okay, now let's see how the tree works. The tree has 12 different categories, and these are really what you would think of as our faculties of consciousness, or our abilities of consciousness, ways that we are able to approach life by through various different abilities that we have. So we have 10 different circles or spheres here. This is number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then 3, 2, and 1. There's a thing here that's called the abyss. That is an implied sphere. And then there's a thing above the tree called the zero. So that's a total of 12 different categories. And they break down roughly as, or not even roughly, but particularly as the 10th sphere is our wild animal consciousness. This is the law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, kill or be killed, fight or flight response. These are, and also the kind of the defilements of the body, the addictions of the body, and the lusts of the body. Okay, then the 9th sphere right here corresponds to, I'll just say the 10th sphere is open to us as we are born. Okay, so this is what we're going with to start out our life. And then in the first years of our life, we begin to open up this 9th sphere. The 9th sphere is for the early years of our life, where we're highly receptive to what's going on. We're basically soaking up things like a sponge, because we are, in the home. This is our domestic consciousness. We're in the home and we're learning everything from our caregivers. We're just watching them do what they do, and we kind of memorize their behaviors, and we practice what they do, and we eventually learn how to imitate what they do. And so that's kind of the process of the ninth sphere: heightened receptivity in the domestic sphere, and then practice and imitation, memory, practice, and imitation. Okay, then the eighth sphere is similar, but it's a slightly later period in our life as we move out into the public sphere. Perhaps we begin to go to school, we begin to go to church, we go to we play on our little league team, or we join the brownies, or any number of ways that we can interact with the public. But we also get exposed to the institutions, the establishment, and the expert opinion, the conventional wisdom, the common sense, the thing that everybody knows that. Now, these are all kind of eighth sphere things, and they set us up with a set of belief systems, and like a paradigm about how things are. And to the extent that we accept those belief systems and buy into them, we can move ourselves into the eighth sphere over time. The problem with the eighth sphere is that it is a trickster. Okay, the eighth sphere is illusory. It's not always telling you the truth. It's trying to trick you. And another problem with it is that this is where all the resources and all the power is consolidated. And so, we find an irresistible urge to try to get into this, but ultimately it's illusory. And we spend a lot of time justifying our belief systems, rationalizing our belief systems, even though they're not true, even though these things that they tell us are true don't exactly jibe with our own experiences. We rationalize away our own experiences in favor of what they tell us is the truth. This is kind of like the emperor's new clothes. The emperor comes out with no clothes on, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, those are great." Those look really good. And it takes a kid to actually pierce through it and say, he's not wearing anything. But everybody else is just kind of like, it's not like they're lying. They actually have like convinced themselves that he is wearing clothes, because they're thinking to themselves, well, I don't see him wearing any clothes, but everybody else is agreeing with it. So I must be crazy. And so I better kind of pretend that I see it too. And so that's kind of the situation that you end up getting in the eighth sphere. And then, so when you finally do, say the emperor wears no clothes, you end up moving over to the seventh sphere. Or the eighth sphere is like the real world. The seventh sphere is the imaginary world. So the seventh sphere is the world that you imagine once you recognize all the weaknesses of the eighth sphere. You may see a problem, a social problem, or you may see a problem with your employment or with your schooling, and that it's not living up to reality. So you come over here, you use your imagination, and then you also have your intuition, and you have your inspiration, you have your creativity spark, your spark of creativity, and your pleasure principle, your ability to put things together in pleasing, harmonious wholes. And those are the faculties of the seventh sphere, and you use those, put them all together, and you kind of can come up with a song, or a play, or an invention that attempts to improve upon what's going on at the eighth sphere. So this is an alternative approach to kind of like the same problem. But then when you try to elevate this to a higher, higher level on the spiritual plane, it's a little bit more difficult because the seventh sphere is inspiration, but the inspiration is just the 1% of genius, and the 99% is perspiration. And so this whole path here is really the perspiration part. Um, it's a lot of hard work, because first you have to, okay, the sixth sphere is our free will faculty, our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. And the first problem is that our attention, which is a vector, it's a pointer. We point our attention at something. We pay attention to something. It's not just like a general. Our attention as a pointer, and we are generally paying attention to our conditionings and our habits that are down here, the things that we're accustomed to, that we grew up with, is our comfort zone. But the other aspect of free will is our ability to make decisions. And so the first decision that we can make at the sixth sphere is to turn our attention around and focus our attention up the tree instead of down the tree. And this is where a lot of the hard work, a lot of the perspiration comes in, because you're peeling yourself away from your comfort zone, and you're moving yourself into a position of very scary position, one that requires you to kind of overcome some of your fears, because you are now kind of paying attention to the unknown, because these aspects on the tree have not been developed yet. So you don't really know what you're paying attention to. So you start by paying attention to the fifth sphere, which is our sense of justice. And the sense of justice really boils down to karma. Our karma is really a fifth sphere thing, and you can see it as being like a mirror here. So at the sixth sphere, you act and you get feedback on your actions from your karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What comes around goes around. And so karma is based upon violence, waste, and violation. And so when you act violently, you get violence in return. When you act wastefully, you get waste in return. But if you are paying attention, you recognize this, and you can begin to eliminate the wasteful action, and you can begin to eliminate the violent action, and improve your performance, improve your actions, so you don't get so much karma coming back to you. So that's a way to be able to tune in the fifth sphere, to open up the fifth sphere, and to use your karma as a friend, a teacher for you. Now, the fourth sphere works with the fifth sphere in that the fourth sphere is where the fifth sphere is the enforcement of the law, the natural law. The fourth sphere is the articulation of that law, the natural law, which comes from cosmologies, sometimes the ancient holy books, and theories of everything that purport to tell us how everything works, how, including in the religious realm. Where did we come from? Who is God? What are we doing here? Where are we going after this? What is the purpose? And all those things are attempted to be answered by cosmology. And so we normally only look to the cosmology that we were raised up in. But there are many, many, many cosmologies out there. And in general, the more that you study, the better you can make your own personal cosmology. The fourth sphere also corresponds to the universal love and the universal language. So this is our universal sphere here. Then the abyss corresponds to psychic powers. our ability to tune in to and recognize omens, and then to be able to act upon them. And the omens are coincidences or synchronicities or things that just are uncanny, things that strike you as being, you know, outside the realm of statistical chance, you know, where it's like, wow, that's too crazy to even be statistically, you know, the odds of that are just too great for it to be happening. And so the psychic receptivity is for being able to recognize that, and then the psychic heat is to be able to act upon that, because the activity is usually implicit in the synchronicity. The synchronicity tells you the omen, but it also prescribes a course of action for you. But that course of action is difficult to do because it forces you to put yourself out there. So those are the two stages. Then we have 3, 2, and 1, which are divine aspects within us that we have to tap into, which is very difficult at this level. 3 is omnipotence, all-powerful. We tap into this through mantra and other sound synchronization techniques. Second sphere is omniscient, all-knowing, or wisdom, our ability to solve problems. And this is tapped into either through divination or through being able to kind of shut down our mind to the point that we can see inside. And then the first sphere is omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. And this is tapped into through utter stillness and being able to sink down all the way to our deepest center, our core inside of us. And at that core, we recognize that that we have a divine spark within us, and that this divine spark within us is exactly the same as the divine spark that's within everything else. So it's a unifying factor. And then the 0 sphere above the tree is the ultimate mystery. We can't exactly, only indirectly do we have contact with the 0 sphere. Because the 0 sphere is part of the creator, it's part of the divine, but it is not part of the universe. And so it's the part of the creator that the creator reserves for itself, meaning that it's not something that we can know about directly. In some ways, you can think of it as kind of like the rules of the game, or whatever preceded the game. If you think of the universe as a game, which I think is a very useful analogy for it. Now, what I've done with my teaching model, that is kind of like what I just presented is the beginner's aspect of the tree. And then my teaching model goes one level further into more advanced teachings, maybe like an intermediate teaching, and that is to take the whole tree as a fractal. And so I basically take the whole tree, because you can apply the tree to anything, and break it down into its 12 parts. So I took the whole tree and I shrunk it down to miniature size, and I applied it to each one of the spheres of the tree. So 12 parts of the 7th sphere, and 12 parts of the 4th sphere, 12 parts of the 6th sphere, and so on. So you end up with a total of 144 different mini parts of the tree, what I call fractal faculties, or stages of life, history, spirituality. And those stages are not really chronological stages, like stages of history, you know, or stages of geology. But they're stages of dramatic stages. So like, stages of performance. And these different stages, each one of the 144 are stages that you need to be able to perform in a certain way. And I've compiled a list of those that's really like an abstract of the longer version. And I'd be happy to share that with you for free. If you'd like to click the link in the description, I will send out that list to you. And that will help you as we go through these videos, because each day I present as part of the more advanced teachings, toward the end of the video, I present the one of the 144 different fractal faculties that answers that question that we started with at the beginning. So today we're looking at stage number 112. And you can see that number 112 is really in the second sphere, and it is the 7th fractal of the second sphere. So the second sphere is about omniscience, and it's about being able to solve problems. It's about wisdom, and tapped into through inner sight. And the 7th sphere is about imagination, intuition, inspiration, pleasure principle, in particular for here where I think we're talking about the pleasure principle. So that's what we're talking about today, the 7th fractal of the second sphere. How can we keep on when so many bad things happen to us? And this one is called resolution of pleasure. Number 112, resolution of pleasure. Stage number 112 is about the liberation that ensues from knowing there are no good or bad events, only our reactions and responses. Be able to enjoy it, but be able to do without it at a moment's notice. Through this surrender to the present moment, we are able to will enjoyment for any situation, even difficult, prolonged ones. We don't go searching for pain, but appreciate its enlightening nature, its significance and opportunity when it comes. So too, we allow the enjoyment of things in the spirit, while simultaneously knowing the truth and being able immediately to return the spirit to its essentially unconditioned or no qualities state at will. Not gratuitously. We don't go looking for pain, but when it comes, we know what to do. We don't go looking for pleasure either, but when it comes, we can enjoy it. Experience is neutral content. It's just a structure, just a geometry. There is no good and bad, but there still is good and evil. Good and evil has to do with our responses. Good and bad has to do with our experience. Conscience comes from the source of intuition and informs us about the good and evil responses we can take. Through this process, we become more detached. Physical pain is very useful in keeping us alert and on the sensate level in Vipassana meditation. We learn that pain is unavoidable, but suffering is optional. Okay, that is stage number 112. Resolution of pleasure, the 7th fractal of the second sphere. And thank you for sticking around to the end. And I hope you got something good out of it. If you did, hit the like button. You can share the video with others, subscribe to the channel, and you can click the link in the description to get a free copy of the 144 Fractal Faculties. And if you are are feeling generous, you can also donate to the channel by way of Cash App or Venmo that are also listed in the description. So thanks for tuning in today, and we'll be bringing another one just like it, but different tomorrow. Okay, thanks.